Ladies and gentlemen, I am thrilled to welcome you to a very special first episode of Verse Vanguard Radio. Today, we have the privilege of hosting a multi-talented artist. I am your host, Simone Cavendish. Welcome to Verse Vanguard Radio. Let's begin, shall we? Ladies and gentlemen, I am immensely thrilled to welcome you to a very special first episode of Verse Vanguard Radio. Today we have the privilege of hosting a multi-talented artist. He's not just a poet, but also a visual artist and a musician, a true virtuoso of the creative realm. His debut poetry book, though prematurely released, has already begun to captivate readers with its eloquent verses and poignant insights into the human experience. With Davenir joining us today, you'll have the unique opportunity to delve into the mind of a true creative force, understanding the symbiotic relationship between poetry, art and music. Listen as he shares the details of his book and glimpses of his upcoming projects. Without further ado, let's give a warm welcome to a rising star in the world of creativity. So Davenir, if you don't mind, I would love to jump right in. Can you tell me a little about Ab Initio, and what are some of the ideas that were conceptualized to create such a project?
I am truly grateful to be given this platform to speak on my book and the challenges that I went through to get to the point where it is now out on all platforms. So just thank you guys at Verse Vanguard for giving me this opportunity. Starting with the first two chapters, they're separated only in two chapters. The book is chapter 1, poems you read in the dark, and chapter 2, poems you do not bring to the light. Essentially, the beginning chapter is a metaphor for poems that you would want to read in your darkest times. I wanted chapter 1 to be away from the motif that poetry is sadness, heartache, and loss. And I wanted the book to be more so a safe space where people can find reassurance in their own lives. The same way that these poems, I use these poems for me, I hope that people are able to do that as well. Going into chapter 2 is poems you do not bring to the light. And poems you do not bring to the light is a metaphor for poems that are meant to understand what figures cast the largest shadows within ourselves. They're meant to be a think piece about life and the human experience itself. I touch on a lot of topics that I never want to be questioned about, because I become really raw and unfiltered in this second chapter. I confess a lot. I talk about themes such as sexuality, become aware of emotions and become aware of these energies in motion, but also be confronted with who they really are. And that is what the main purpose of this book was, to confront myself with who I wanted to become. Before, there was a part of me that would say, I'm releasing a book, I'm releasing a project, I'm releasing this, I'm releasing that, and I never was able to create that into fruition until I changed my circle, until I changed and filtered out the negative influences that I had in my life that was deterring me from my truest potential, and focused on what mattered the most to me. I was afraid that nobody would like poetry, nobody would like my projects or my music or my art, and through that fear, it stopped me from showing people who I could be, and it stopped me from seeing it myself. So I erased that fear, and I erased the need for confirmation and affirmation outside of myself. My message to the reader, my message to the people listening now, if you believe in yourself, that is only the beginning. You must get to the point where you can trust in yourself and that you know in yourself, because belief is not enough. Belief is the word with the lie directly in the middle. I want us to know in ourselves our power, our capabilities, our limitless potential. I want us to be certain of those things. So with this book, I hope that not only the creator, but the human being themselves can find solace in my words. Through this book, I wanted to display my quotes and my art and my poetry in a way that I've never done before. As a spoken word poet, I feel like the only way that I can get my point across is through audio. I wanted to start with the written version of my book because I wanted people to develop their own interpretation of my words themselves. I wanted people to get a glimpse of myself that I've never revealed. I've lived my life in such a secrecy, and I've done a really good job at that. But with this book, I wanted to be transparent. I wanted to talk about my hardship. I wanted to talk about my heartbreak. I wanted to be direct with the things that I've been through and my experiences, because I want to create a space where not only people can relate to my words, but also find peace within their own hardships and their own experiences that gives them some sort of closure that they were not allowed before. So, yeah, I know I've said a mouthful, but I'm just super excited. So thank you. Yeah.
No problem at all. We'll be right back after a quick commercial.
I've been listening to Crossover all day. Let me see if it's anything good on.
I keep reading Ab Initio over and over.
Ab Initio is such a vibe.
Attention, people of Earth. We have received transmission for the Otherworlders.
Read Ab Initio.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Davenir. So, I wanted to ask a little bit about this book cover, because, correct me if I'm wrong, it was designed by you as well. And what are some of your favourite pieces you worked on in Ab Initio?
Thank you for the question. Yes, I actually did design the book cover myself. The font is hand-drawn. The entire book cover itself is hand-drawn. And it was inspired by a candle flame. The reason being is because I wanted to describe light and dark existing in the same space. So the display of it itself, I designed in the inspiration of a eternal flame, almost a representation of the soul. So that is why it appears like it's lighting up from the inside, because it is to represent the soul of the book and the soul within all of us, the eternal flame within all of us. Thank you for asking. My favorite pieces that I worked on was the picture entitled Near. I loved Simmer, I loved DR. A lot of the poems that I'm naming now were ones that I turned to when I needed to smile again and remember that everything was going to be alright. I created a lot of poems based off motivating yourself out of those times, and also to reveal that somebody has experienced this same level of rejection, this same level of dismissal, this same level of feeling unimportant. And sometimes we can hear the silence in the room and it'll be enough for us not to believe in ourselves. We can overhear the sigh in somebody's voice when you begin to express yourself, and you can know that they're really not happy for you. And through creating this book and through creating my new projects that's coming on 11/11, I realized that it was an internal insight that I had to have that motivated me through these times of where, no, I don't believe anybody believed in me, but as long as I knew in myself, I could get through it and I could turn my dreams into realities and create it into fruition. As you know, my book was released prematurely, which was at first such a devastating announcement to make, but I realized that through the early appearance, it was forcing me to use my survival skills, and I realized that the time was now, that the future is now, and if this is what God had in store for me to have a early release, I accept everything as it comes, and I learned to not have any expectations at all, to allow life to happen, because that's all that we can do. I just got the news yesterday, actually, that it is available on Amazon as well. So that was amazing news. And with Ab Initio comes a sense of relief, because I waited so long for this to become a reality. I was able to create a visual towards my poems and towards my spoken word poetry. And it was truly my introduction into explaining to people that I'm not going to give up. Through 2023, I learned, of course, how to play the piano and improved my skills in traditional art with pencil drawing, in music with producing, and with co-producing. I read as many books as I possibly could on emotional intelligence, mindfulness, and self-awareness for me to be able to develop a unforgettable piece of literature that I hope everybody of all ages can find a way to enjoy.
There is a duality in Ab Initio. It's genuinely filled with double meanings and nuances within the pages. The poems have this ability to flow perfectly with each quote and picture. Was this intentional? And why did you decide to use 70 poems in your book?
Wow, yes, it was definitely intentional. The reason being was I wanted it to flow the same way that I have seen albums flow. I have not read, honestly, a lot of poetry books in my life, so it was kind of organized in the way that I would imagine an album, flowing from one thing to the next, with the quotes essentially being an interlude to the next poem. I wanted each poem to be bridged by a confronting and a self-aware question in these quotes. Create a mind map of understanding that starts from beginning to end. The 70 poems thing, that was not intentional. I will say that. The 70 poems actually came when I finished chapter 1. It was because it told me it was done. I wanted to finish chapter 1 strong, and when I got to the last poem of Poems You Read in the Dark, I knew that it was finished. And with chapter 2, it was the same thing. It told me it was done. It was nothing more that I needed to do with it. By the end, when I counted the amount of poems that were actually in the book, I was surprised. I didn't know that. To think as well, there was some that was actually redacted and taken out of the book because it didn't flow with the theme of it all. Is really shocking that I still ended up with 70. And with the combination of the quotes and the poems together, I actually don't really know how much is in this book itself. I guess I would have to read it again. They just happened because they felt right. So I think I take a lot of that stance with my artistry. I do things that I feel like feels right. A shameless plug, but just like the poem Simmer, I leave myself on simmer so that I can make sure that I'm well done and that everything is developed in the way that it should. I have a lot of nuance experiences that people would not expect. And I think because I was so transparent in this book, I think people will learn a lot more about me in a way that they have never seen before. I get really personal without getting too far off the vein of motivation. Through my studies of developing to be a life coach, I am currently in training to become a life coach and mindfulness practitioner. I'm soon to be certified in both. I developed a sense of self-awareness that I didn't have before. Here, my first musical project will be releasing alongside the visuals for the project, and I have been working on this music for over a year now, and I'm still in the finalization processes of the mixing and mastering with Nervy.
Okay, yes. Tell us more about this connection to music. Where did it begin and how does it coincide with your poetry? It's a little shocking, actually, to see someone release two projects while simultaneously promoting them both. What challenges have you faced while creating both of these projects? And can we have an exclusive album or maybe EP name reveal?
Whoa, okay, so let's start from the beginning. I want to start from my connection to music. My connection to music really started when I was 17 years old. I remember from a young age, I've always wanted to sing and I've always wanted to make music, but I never really knew any of the techniques on how to do it. So I've gotten a lot of no's, I've gotten a lot of rejection within my musical journey before I learned anything about music or vocal production or anything. I want to focus on the things I've always wanted to do. And through trial and error, through a lot of deleted Snapchat recordings, I finally gained the confidence in my voice to be able to want it to be heard. I've developed a lot of skill set within my musical quality, and I learned my voice in ways that I never knew that I could. It all really stems from writing, though. It truly, without writing, I would have never thought about making music, because writing essentially was the reason why I wanted to build websites, was the reason why I wanted to write music, because it was the thing. Coding is just another form of writing. Writing songs is just another form of writing, and I was never able to effectively do it. So I finally got to the point where I was able to teach myself enough about the voice and enough about music so that I could be able to do it effectively and get my point across. So I'm really proud of this upcoming project. Initially, I really had no idea how I was going to balance both the book and the EP. And honestly, I'm kind of, how would I say, seeing the rollout as it goes. I have developed multiple rollout ideas, but of course with the premature release of the book, I had to shift everything a little bit more forward, and which is fine because I'm a numerology type of guy, so the days will be able to fall on numerical days that I agree with. So I'm satisfied with that. The project is entitled Crossover. It was originally entitled the Crossover Episode, but I decided to just simply name it Crossover because, well, in truth, it is my crossover away from poetry. I want to take my music seriously, and I want to develop my skills even more in music, and I thought the only way that I could do that was send a farewell to poetry for the time being. I wanted to amalgamate all of my experiences in my poetry book. So that's why it's so filled to the brim, because I wanted to make sure that my poetry, especially the beginning stages of, well, not the beginning stages, but especially my poetry up until this point, can be immortalized in this type of way, so it can be remembered. I wanted my book especially to be the thing that everybody references as where I started from. I'm a poet first. No matter what, I don't want anybody to forget that. That is who I am. But these ventures has taken me and opened so many doors for me that I can't ignore my connection to music. I can't ignore the way that music has allowed me to walk in so many doors and open so many windows and shake so many hands that I never would have thought that I would before. So I love music for giving me that platform and allowing me to do that in that space to do that. There's even a poem in the book where I say nobody likes poetry, because in a way I've always felt like it was overshadowed. Ab Initio for me is not a grave site for poetry. It is a cocoon for my poetry, so that I can develop my poetry even more into the creature and the entity that I know that it can be, and through its metamorphosis into music, into artistry. And me personally, I just feel like we have to remember that there is no limit to the capabilities of the human being. There is no limit to the maximum potential of the human being. And through my artistry, I want to make sure that people remember that. And I want to make sure that people are able to see me for who I really am. I'm just a creator. A theme that I wish that I would have added to the book is the chosen one mindset. The chosen one mindset is this idea that we will wake up one day with a lightning bolt on our foreheads, and Voldemort or whatever entity will not be able to touch us because we are the chosen one. And I don't believe in such a thing. I don't believe I am the chosen one. I don't believe that I'm any more special than any other human being on this world. I just believe that there's something within me that believes that we can do anything we put our mind to. And it was a shift that improved my manifestation and improved my way of life in a way that I am eternally grateful for. And I hope that I can leave these echoes through my legacy, through these different projects that create my legacy. The most dangerous people are people who have absolutely nothing that they are working towards. They're willing to do anything to fill the time and fill the void. What is that going to be for you? What is that going to be for you that motivates you, that pushes you? Without a shadow of a doubt, I'm not sure how long we have, but I just want to say, chase the feeling of accomplishment. Chase that feeling like time is chasing you. Chase the feeling of accomplished. Feel accomplished every single day, even if that's just getting out of bed, even if that's just quitting a bad habit, even if that's just finishing a book that you've always wanted. Make sure you set great intentions for your future to be proud of you. I'm in the beginning of stages of my book release. I'm in the beginning stages of my EP release, and I have no idea what the future can hold. I remember creating, I'm staring at it right now, that's why I'm pointing towards it. I remember creating my vision board in hopes that I could manifest the reality I deserve. And every day since I created that, and every day that I become more spiritually balanced. I remember turning 24 and I went vegetarian. I went completely vegan. I haven't had a piece of meat in months. And I feel better than I ever have. I feel more in line with my truest destiny more than I ever have. And I wouldn't have it any other way, truly.
Thank you for listening to Verse Vanguard Radio. I am your host, Simone Cavendish. See you next time, and keep your pens up.